I first heard about Tales of Kenzera Zhao in the 2023 Game Awards show. What really caught my attention was that Abu Bakr Salim, most known for voice acting Bayek in Assassin's Creed Origins, was explaining how he was taking a risk in honoring his late father in creating this game. Honestly, just from that speech and the trailer shown, I was convinced and was willing to check it out when it was released. Tales of Kenzera Zhao is the story of a young man on a journey to reclaim his father's spirit using both the sun and moon mask to help him navigate through the Metroidvania-like world. I ultimately enjoyed my 10-hour journey through the land of Kenzera. However, there were some obvious design flaws that didn't make me convinced that it was a good, fleshed out product. I think the main selling point of this game is the story, and it was done very, very well. It just felt kinda rushed towards the beginning, but after Act 1, I think the pacing of the story was fine. The voice acting is what carried the whole experience for me. Props to all the voice actors, each and every character did a very good job on their performance. All the characters are also well written and all get their time in the spotlight. The main focus is the relationship between Zhao and Kolunga and how Zhao is coping with the loss of his father, and each act includes a character in a supporting role that just shows and highlights Zhao's trauma. Having it structured like this made it very easy for me to follow along and understand the story. The graphics are also very beautiful. There's so many biomes and some of the backgrounds were just very well drawn. The music choice, art direction, and just overall story is the selling point of this game, and honestly, it succeeded in achieving this goal. The actual gameplay mechanics, however, wasn't something I enjoyed. Tales of Kenzera is a Metroidvania game, which is essentially like a semi-open world platformer. I've only played like 2 other Metroidvania, both being Hollow Knight and Prince of Persia game that came out this year, so I wouldn't say I'm an expert in the genre, but there were a lot of differences between these games that I noticed. One, in Tales of Kenzera, you start the game being able to dash, wall jump, double jump, and all that, which is great because having to unlock these like basic maneuvers is kinda lame. I won't spoil anything here, but the new abilities that you do learn in Tales of Kenzera, they felt very situational and was essentially useless in combat. In Prince of Persia Lost Crown, one of the abilities was that you can like set down a clone of yourself, and when you press the button again, you instantly teleport to that location. There were puzzles that needed you to do that, but it was also very useful in combat. Being able to safely teleport out of enemy dash attacks were extremely useful, and so there was a lot of value in unlocking this ability. I didn't get that same feeling with Tales of Kenzera. The abilities that I learned there were strictly only used for puzzles, and so then it made each ability I gained very inconsequential. Another thing I do want to mention is that I suck at Souls-like games. I am getting a bit better though, but whenever I died or took damage in Hollow Knight, I acknowledged and knew it was my fault because I didn't time my jump right or I used the wrong abilities or whatever. But most of the time I died in Tales of Kenzera, I felt like I was cheated and the game put me in a situation where I died. There were times when I literally just slid off a platform for no reason or died to a death spike when I wasn't touching it. There were times when I was moving fast and the camera just couldn't keep up and I couldn't see what was ahead of me. This instance also happened when transitioning from like a wide camera view to show like the entire puzzle like in a room. Then moving to the next room, I felt like the game was slow to realize I was moving to the next room and was lagging behind. Because of this, it would result in me dying sometimes, and that just feels horrible. Dying to something you couldn't see what was ahead of you is the worst. Even though it is labeled as a Metroidvania, which to my understanding has an emphasis on exploration, I think Tales of Kenzera never had me want to go out to explore, mostly because I already explored all of just getting to the destination I wanted to be for the quest. Prince of Persia Lost Crown had many jumping puzzles and areas that were not part of the direct path to the questline. It's been a while since I played Hollow Knight, but I do remember I was exploring a lot and I ran into a lot of dead ends. So even though there wasn't that many aspects of exploration in Tales of Kenzera, I think this game isn't trying to be that type of exploration game. To me, it's a story-first type of scenario, but nonetheless, it is something I noticed, and I do know that some people value like the exploration part in Metroidvania games. The combat itself, I think, is pretty straightforward. You can swap between the Sun Mask, granting you fire and physical powers, and the Moon Mask, which grants you ice and like projectile attacks. Chaining combos by constantly swapping between these masks was fun at first, but it then grew tiresome as I was fighting the same enemies over and over again. And it never really introduced new enemy types fast enough. There needed to be more unique enemy types for each biome, in my opinion, to emphasize the difference in these biomes in like a gameplay aspect. The skill tree was also nice, just wish there was a bit more stuff in it, but again, the game is pretty short, so I never really managed to fully complete it. Apart from the obvious clunkiness of the platforming physics, I think the way they handled the shields on the enemies was done poorly. If you see a red shield, you have to use the sun mask, and if you see a blue shield, you have to use a moon mask. Simple enough. But it got very frustrating with the amount of attacks needed to break the shields and the odd pairing of shields on the enemy type. It makes sense using a bow on a flying enemy, because that's just how I think it works logically. But when a flying unit has a red shield, meaning I have to use a sun mask to attack, I have to spend more time doing like risky jump attacks to break the shield, just so I can finish it off with the bow. It breaks the combat flow, and I think the combat shines when you are constantly changing your masks on the fly. But when you have to perma-stick to a particular mask to break the shield of one enemy, it just kills the flow. And it gets worse when you do break the shield, you constantly have to attack the enemy, or else that enemy will just regain its shield again. I think the colorless shields were more fair because you could still do your combos, but the enemies were less susceptible to knockback, so you had to be more careful. But constantly doing some like weird jump attacks with the sun mask to break like a single batch shield was very frustrating, and even more when there were a lot of shielded enemies at once. Tales of Kenzera is first and foremost a passion game. It's a game that is focused on the story, the environment, the graphics, the characters, the emotions, and the voice acting. It's a short game lasting just under 10 hours. But I didn't feel like I wasted 10 hours. The story was very, very well made, and it will resonate with a lot of people, with those who lost someone very close to them in their life. The actual gameplay itself may not be up to today's standards, as the inconsistent physics, the camera, makes it very frustrating at times. And even though it's a Metroidvania, the game levels itself feel very linear. But look, the game is not a AAA game. It's not a big budget project or even expensive. It's a $20 game, and honestly, it's a good game for that price. You can compare those games to like monsters like Hollow Knight or Prince of Persia: Lost Crown, but at the end of the day, this game is about the experience, the story, the characters. And in that aspect, it's a really good game, and if you're interested in the story of this game, you should definitely check it out, especially when it's only $20. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to this video if you like this type of content. If you have any suggestions for any game that you want me to play, you can leave a comment down below or come join the Discord and link below that I'm active in. See you guys later.